tonight. It is an honor for me. I'm humbled by so much talent, so much passion for the game of basketball.
At 60 years old, Cynthia Cooper still carries that sharp fire in her eyes, the same fire that once changed women's basketball forever. When she walks into a gym today, players stop and stare. They know who she is. Coop, the name that built the first WNBA dynasty. Between 1997 and 2000, she didn't just win, she dominated. 4 straight championships with the Houston Comets. 2 regular season MVPs, 4 finals MVPs. Numbers that still sound unreal, especially considering she was 34 when the league even began. Before the WNBA existed, she had already lived another lifetime in Europe, years in Italy learning the art of scoring, learning how to lead, learning that survival meant never backing down. When the league finally called her home, she was ready. In a game that often favored youth and promise, Cynthia brought something else, a ruthless kind of experience. Her footwork, her mid-range control, her killer instinct, they all spoke one truth: greatness doesn't care about age. But legends aren't built on trophies alone. Behind every title, every MVP, every highlight, there were battles, personal ones, emotional ones, and sometimes ugly ones. The rivalries that shaped her, the women who pushed her past her limits, the faces that she could never quite forgive. Some were teammates, some were enemies, and some were both at different times. They made her angry. They made her proud. They made her unstoppable. Cynthia Cooper has always said that competition isn't about hate, it's about proof. Proof that you belong, proof that you're still the best. Yet even she admits some rivalries cut deeper than others. Some never truly faded. And so today, for the first time, the queen of the early WNBA looks back, without filter, without fear, at the 5 women who fueled her fire, the ones she could never forgive, the ones who defined her fight. Cynthia Cooper was born on April 14, 1963 in Chicago and raised in the tough streets of Watts, Los Angeles. Basketball wasn't just a sport for her, it was survival. Playing against older boys, she learned how to take hits, how to fight back, and how to stay calm when the court turned chaotic. That raw toughness became her greatest weapon. At the University of Southern California, she joined forces with Cheryl Miller, winning 2 NCAA championships in the early 1980s. Cooper wasn't the loudest or flashiest, but she was the one who never stopped attacking. When no women's pro league existed in the U.S., she went to Italy, a decision that quietly built her legend. There, she mastered the art of scoring patience and leadership. She became the American star Europe knew before America ever did. Then came 1997. The WNBA was born, and at 34, most thought she was past her prime. Instead, she became its first true superstar. 4 championships in a row with the Houston Comets. 2 regular season MVPs. 4 straight finals MVPs. A career that turned experience into dominance and discipline into fear. Yet behind that dominance were rivalries not just on other teams but sometimes within her own. The pressure of leadership, the tension with rising stars, and the constant comparisons all fueled her fire. Cooper's greatness was forged in those battles. She didn't seek conflict, but she thrived in it. And today at 60, the woman once called the Michael Jordan of the WNBA finally looks back not at her victories but at the 5 women who defined her edge. The 5 she could never quite forgive. Number 5, Tina Thompson, the first ever draft pick in WNBA history, a young forward out of USC with a perfect blend of grace and power. When she joined the Houston Comets in 1997, she was just 22, confident, ambitious, and already carrying the weight of expectations. Beside her stood Cynthia Cooper, 12 years older, freshly returned from her European reign, hungry to prove that age meant nothing. Together, they were supposed to build the league's first dynasty. And they did, but not without sparks. The Comets were unstoppable that year. 4 stars, 4 egos, 1 goal. Cooper was the scorer, the leader, the heartbeat. Thompson was the rising talent, the future. Their chemistry on court looked effortless, but behind closed doors the tension was real. Thompson wanted more touches, more space to grow. Cooper, already fighting to claim her moment after years overseas, wasn't ready to share it. Every practice became a silent contest: who would take the last shot, who controlled the floor, who the media praised first. Age and experience drew a line between them. Cooper demanded perfection. Thompson wanted freedom. Their styles clashed. Cooper played with calculation, every move deliberate, while Tina brought raw emotion and youthful fire. In interviews, reporters painted Cooper as the teacher and Thompson as the student, but neither woman liked that narrative. Coop didn't see herself as anyone's teacher. Tina didn't want to be anyone's apprentice. Still, winning covers up everything, at least for a while. Houston swept through the league titles, piling up banners rising, but inside that dominance lived quiet rivalry. During timeouts, they'd exchange looks instead of words. During team huddles, each voice fought to lead. Cooper at 35 wasn't ready to step aside. Thompson, at 23, wasn't ready to wait. The real breaking point came in the finals of 1999. Late in Game 2, with the Comets trailing, both players wanted the last possession. Thompson called for the ball wide open at the wing. Cooper waved her off, took the shot herself, and made it. The crowd roared, the Comets won, and history celebrated another Cooper moment. But as cameras flashed, Tina turned away first. Years later, Cooper admitted that moment stayed with her. Tina was like my little sister, strong, fearless, stubborn as hell. But we both wanted to lead. Sometimes the fire that wins games also burns relationships. That rivalry never became hatred in its purest form, but it built edges that cut deep. Tina would go on to become one of the greatest scorers in WNBA history, a symbol of consistency and longevity. Cooper, by then retired, often said she saw herself in Thompson's drive, and maybe that's why it stung so much. Their story wasn't about betrayal. It was about power, who had it, who earned it, who deserved to hold it longer. For Cynthia Cooper, Tina Thompson wasn't an enemy. She was the reflection in the mirror she couldn't outgrow. That battle didn't break their bond. It defined it. Number 4, Sheryl Swoopes. The name alone carried elegance and confidence, the perfect contrast to Cynthia Cooper's fire. They were teammates, icons, and competitors sharing the same jersey. And that was the problem. When two MVP-caliber players lead, one team competition doesn't disappear. It only hides beneath the wins. In 1997, Swoopes missed most of the inaugural season after giving birth, leaving Cooper to dominate the league and become its first MVP. By the time Swoopes returned in 1998, she was faster, hungrier, and ready to take her place at the top, but the throne was already occupied. Cooper had built the Comets' empire. She wasn't ready to hand it over. Their rivalry grew in silence. Practices turned into duels. Post-game interviews sounded polite but cold. Teammates noticed the tension, subtle but sharp. Each woman wanted to lead. Cooper demanded control, while Swoopes, a natural all-around player, wanted to prove she could be the new face of the franchise. The media only added fuel. Headlines read "The Future versus the Present," framing Swoopes as the rising star and Cooper as the aging legend. Coop took it personally. "I'm still the one they chase," she told a reporter, half smiling but serious. On the court, though, magic happened. In the finals, their connection was unstoppable. Swoopes defending the opponent's best scorer, Cooper hitting daggers in crunch time. Their tension created perfect balance. By 2000, Swoopes had won the regular season MVP, while Cooper claimed her 4th straight finals MVP. They barely spoke that night, yet their legacy was sealed. Years later, Cooper admitted, "We weren't friends, but we made each other better." What looked like rivalry was really pressure turned into greatness. Their uneasy chemistry became the heartbeat of a dynasty. It wasn't friendship that made them win, it was tension that fueled dominance. Number 3, Teresa Weatherspoon. If Cynthia Cooper was the queen of control, Teresa Teaspoon Weatherspoon was the queen of chaos. Loud, passionate, fearless, the heartbeat of the New York Liberty. Where Cooper ruled with calculation, Weatherspoon led with emotion. Every time they met, it wasn't just basketball. It was a collision of two worlds, calm precision against unshakable energy. The rivalry between the Houston Comets and the New York Liberty defined the early WNBA. East versus West. Glamour versus grit. Cooper and Weatherspoon stood at the center of it all. Spoon was smaller, but she refused to back down from anyone, least of all Coop. Her defense was relentless, her voice echoing across the court after every stop. For the first time, Cynthia met someone who matched her fire, play for play, word for word. Then came the 1999 Finals, the series that turned their rivalry into legend. Game 2, Madison Square Garden. The Comets led the series and were seconds from another championship. But with no time left, Weatherspoon launched a desperate heave from half court and hit it. The crowd exploded. The garden shook. Cooper froze, staring in disbelief as Liberty players mobbed their point guard. It was the kind of moment athletes never forget, especially the ones on the wrong side of history. For Cooper, the shot became a scar. But scars have power. Game 3 was her answer. Back home in Houston with everything on the line, Cooper scored 25 points and closed the door on New York's dream. The Comets lifted their third straight trophy. Cooper's face was calm, but her eyes told the story. Revenge achieved, balance restored. Their personal duel continued for years. Every Liberty Comets game became theater. Weatherspoon shouting, clapping, pressing full court. Cooper silent but deadly, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. They were total opposites, yet equally obsessed with winning. Off the court, they rarely spoke. Respect replaced words. In later interviews, Cooper admitted that Weatherspoon was the toughest guard I ever faced. She made every possession a war. And when they both entered the Hall of Fame years later, they finally shared a smile. Two pioneers recognizing the fire they had once tried to destroy in each other. That's the thing about rivalries. The best ones never fade. They live on in highlights, in memories, in the silence after the crowd stops cheering. That battle didn't just test her, it defined her. Number 2, Chamique Holdsclaw, the name that symbolized the future of women's basketball. When she entered the league in 1999, fresh from a record-breaking college career at Tennessee, people called her the next Michael Jordan. For Cynthia Cooper, who had built the WNBA's foundation with sweat and willpower, those words were hard to ignore. She didn't hate Holdsclaw the person, she hated what the hype represented, the idea that her era was already over. The league wanted a new face. Holdsclaw was younger, taller, marketable, everything Cooper wasn't supposed to be anymore. Washington Mystics fans adored her. Nike signed her and the media crowned her before she'd played a single playoff game. Cooper, then 36, had just won her third Finals MVP. Yet every headline seemed to ask the same question: can Holdsclaw replace Cooper as the face of the WNBA? When Houston and Washington met, the energy shifted. Coop's calm intensity met Chamique's explosive athleticism. Early in their first matchup, Holdsclaw attacked relentlessly, scoring over defenders with ease. But Cooper never played for highlight reels, she played for kills. Possession by possession, she picked the Mystics apart, using her mid-range control, drawing fouls, breaking rhythm. To her, it wasn't just a game. It was a reminder. "Respect the ones who built the road you're walking on," she said after one of those games, the line that defined her generation. Still, she understood Holdsclaw's struggle. Both had carried enormous pressure, one to prove she still mattered, the other to prove she deserved the crown. Their rivalry was both personal and symbolic, experience versus promise. Every time they shared the floor, it felt like two eras wrestling for ownership of women's basketball. In 2000, during a late-season game, Cooper delivered her message clearly. She dropped 30 points against Holdsclaw's Mystics, controlling the tempo from start to finish. As the final buzzer sounded, she didn't celebrate. She just nodded across the court, a quiet signal that the Queen still ruled. Over time, the tension softened. Holdsclaw later said in an interview that facing Cooper taught her how to carry herself like a professional. Coop, in return, admitted that Chamique's talent reminded her why the league needed a next generation. For Cooper, that rivalry wasn't about dislike. It was about legacy, proving that greatness doesn't fade just because someone new walks in. In the end, that hate turned into respect. Number 1. Lisa Leslie. The rivalry that defined not just Cynthia Cooper's career but the soul of early WNBA basketball. Before the league even existed, their paths were already colliding. Both were products of Los Angeles basketball. Cooper, the gritty veteran from Watts, who learned toughness on the streets. Leslie, the elegant prodigy from Compton, who turned dominance into an art form. One represented survival, the other, perfection. Their story began years before Houston and Los Angeles ever met. Back in the 80s, Cooper starred at USC alongside Sheryl Miller, the same program that Leslie later idolized as a high school player. When Leslie arrived at USC, she stepped into a shadow Cooper had left behind. Reporters called her the next great Trojan. Cooper didn't mind until years later when Leslie's rise in the new WNBA threatened to eclipse her legacy all over again. By 1997, Leslie was the league's glamour icon. The face on every poster, the voice in every commercial. Cooper at 34 was its champion, its backbone, its edge. Their first real clash came when Houston met the Los Angeles Sparks, the battle between power and poise. Leslie brought length, finesse, and confidence. Cooper brought precision and experience. Every matchup between them felt personal, as if two visions of greatness were fighting for control of the game's future. The tension wasn't hidden. Before a key matchup in 1998, Leslie casually told reporters, "Cooper had her time in Europe. This is our era now." It was enough. Coop took that personally. That night she dropped 28 points, hitting shot after shot over double teams, walking off without a smile. After the game, she said simply, "Some eras last longer than people expect." Their duels became must-watch television. Sparks versus Comets was never just another game. It was LA glam versus Houston grit, and every fan had a side. When the Comets swept the Sparks in the playoffs, Cooper's leadership shined brightest. She didn't talk trash. She let the scoreboard speak. 4 Finals MVPs later, it was clear if Leslie was the face of the WNBA, Cooper was its heartbeat. Yet as years passed, something shifted. The fire cooled into mutual respect. When Cooper retired, Leslie continued her climb, becoming a league MVP and the first player to dunk in a WNBA game. During a Hall of Fame event years later, Leslie credited Cooper for setting the standard. "She taught all of us what winning really meant." Cooper smiled and replied, "She made me work for every piece of it." That's what made their rivalry unforgettable. It wasn't about hatred, but pride. Both women needed each other to reach their highest form. Leslie wanted to surpass the legend. Cooper refused to let go of the throne. Together, they gave the young league its identity, competition with consequence. Because even when the trophies were lifted and the cheers faded, one truth remained. Lisa Leslie was the storm that tested Cynthia Cooper's crown. And for Coop, that rivalry burned forever. 5 names. 5 battles that shaped not just Cynthia Cooper but the entire foundation of women's basketball. Tina Thompson, the teammate who became a mirror of her own ambition. Sheryl Swoopes, the rival who turned tension into titles. Teresa Weatherspoon, the spark who forced her to fight harder. Chamique Holdsclaw, the prodigy who made her defend her legacy. And Lisa Leslie, the icon who tested her crown and proved that greatness only grows when it's challenged. For Cynthia Cooper, hate was never destruction, it was fuel. It was the edge that kept her sharp when everyone said she was too old, too small, or too late. Every rivalry, every glare, every game that pushed her to the limit became part of her story. The truth is, she didn't hate these women for who they were. She hated how much she needed them to stay great. Looking back now at 60, she can finally smile about it. The trophies still shine, the banners still hang, but what lasts longer are the rivalries, the ones that built respect out of resistance. In the early WNBA, competition wasn't personal, it was survival. And survival created legends. Cynthia Cooper didn't just dominate an era, she defined it. She gave women's basketball its first true symbol of killer instinct, and she did it against the toughest opponents the league could offer. Because in the end, greatness isn't measured by how many times you win. It's measured by who you had to beat to get there. Rivalries built greatness, and Cynthia Cooper's legacy will always prove it.